been a tough month for me, so I hope you'll forgive me. I may shed a couple tears up here. I lost my mother 1 month ago, unexpectedly. Still tough. But she was a good woman who was focused on helping others. Growing up, and we grew up in Eastern Parkway in Utica, most Saturday mornings I'd come out to find some neighborhood kid that she was tutoring and getting ready for some kind of test or exam. She was a teacher, and that's what she loved to do, help others. We're going to carry on her tradition here today. And so just a little bit, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and a little bit about my background, not to brag, but to maybe set the stage a bit, provide some context, let you know where this is coming from. So we're Jamaican immigrants. How many Jamaicans in the house? West Indians? All right, you all right? You got a couple out there. So we came here, typical immigrant story with nothing. In the 80s, 13 of us in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, Eastern Parkway in Utica. The numbers in question, certainly more than 13, of us jammed together with my lovely aunt, who's also here today, because family takes care of family. So that's how we started. And I'm here in front of you to tell you that, I mean, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure none of you were poorer than we were at that point. We started with nothing. I'll say as recently as 2004, maybe 25K in my bank account. And I'm happy to stand here before you today as a millionaire. Which, again, I say it not to brag, and you don't really want to come out and start shouting out your net worth in front of people. But I say that because you can do it too. You can do it too. You can start from where you are with, call it zero, put a lot of time, effort, prayer, luck, determination, and you can get there too. And so because I wanted to share that, kind of that experience and that opportunity, I put this presentation today and asked Pastor Camara if I could come and say a few words. A little bit more if we get into the story. And so, Jamaican immigrant, came here, Stuyvesant High School, because mother believed in a good education. West Point, which is a military academy. Served for 5 years as an officer in the Army. And then ultimately, Columbia Business School. Columbia Business School led me to work at Merrill Lynch, which used to be a preeminent investment management firm. Now they're gone. Worked at Merrill Lynch for a couple years. '09 came. And was let go, which honestly was the best thing Merrill Lynch ever did for me, including a full scholarship for business school, because it forced me to go out and step out on my own. I said '09, my opportunity cost will never be lower, and I started a hedge fund. A hedge fund is an investment vehicle, just a little background, where you get money from other people, wherever it comes from, hopefully hundreds of millions. You get the money together, and those people give you 2% every year as a management fee, and 20% of whatever profit you make. So you get a couple $100 million together and you do well, it can be incredibly lucrative. I've met a number of billionaires over the years who've become that way from starting hedge funds and running them over a 10-year period of time. So started my own, really didn't get up there, got to about 25 mil, which is nothing in that sector. Left and joined the family office of Clar. My boss has started a hedge fund, my former boss, and went from zero in 2002 to having $500 million personally by 2012. That's $500 million that he made from zero, owning a hedge fund or owning a third of a hedge fund that was very successful. And so he hired me and another guy to help him pick stocks, did that, and now I work at Standard General, which is a business. We buy bankrupt companies in aggregate and try to fix them and sell them for more money. We owned Radio Shack, which was before me and a horrible investment, as well as American Apparel, also bad, but a number of casinos, which have in aggregate made, in some cases, close to $1 billion. So with all that backdrop, I just wanted to let you know I'm an investor. I love it. I've always been a big fan of it. I've had a lot of exposure to it professionally. And through this all, I've kind of seen a few things. I talked about a lot of jobs, talked about a lot of different roles. There ain't many people that look like us in any of these roles. I mean, there just aren't. When I go to do these hedge fund interviews as I was changing jobs or going around the space, it's mostly either tall white males who went to Ivy League schools and did sports, or it's shorter white males who are Jewish and have connections to the right people. Ain't no black people out there picking these stocks at these platforms. And so I go through this all having invested some of my money in a very leveraged and at the time risky real estate play, buying real estate in Brooklyn in '07 right before the crash, and then taking the proceeds from that investment and putting it in the market to create wealth. As I kind of looked around, I realized there's not a lot of people like us who are doing this. And I go, that doesn't seem fair. Why is that? Is it because we aren't being given the opportunity? I'd say that's certainly part of the case. I also think it's because it's not part of our culture to know about these things. In these other families, the dad's telling the son, here's how you buy your first home, and here's how you build that, and that just isn't getting passed down through our community. Well, I'd like to help change that, and I'd like to change that with this presentation today. So I want this to be interactive and fun. I also want to make sure I get the key components across. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to launch, and I'm going to give you again a quick summary of what I'm going to tell you. We're going to go by sections. There's three primary ones. And in between each section, I want to stop and take questions. So there will be a point of questions in the interim. There are no dumb questions. I'm here to help. I'm here to serve. And I can do that best if you guys are able to learn by interacting and coming forth and letting me know what may or may not make sense. So here's our table of contents. We talk a little about tithing. We're going to talk about getting your credit correct. We're going to talk about saving as a foundation. And then we're going to talk about, once you got that savings, your table stakes, how you can grow that. Okay? So tithing. I am standing here as living proof. It's a real concept of the universe. No one can outgive God. It doesn't matter if you've got only a few pennies or if you've got all the money in the world. As you are blessed, you should share it with the Lord. You should do it because it's the right thing to do for the advancement of the church. And you, I'm sure, know about that, and I'll leave that to actual ministers to speak to you about that component. But the other side of the coin is that you can't outgive God. So as you give more, God will bless you more and cause things to be overflowing. It's one of the central tenets, I think, of how the universe works. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but I can tell you that it's the truth. So honor God with your wealth, the first fruit of all your crops, then your barns will be filled overflowing. Will a mere mortal rob God? Yeah, ask how are you robbing him? Bring the whole tithe into your storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be room enough to store it. Get your credit right. You know, nowhere near as exciting as investing and making money, but arguably even more important to this. Really, the story is getting this credit picture right. And so these slides we made available as well. It's a presentation. There's a lot of stuff in here. We're going to cover a lot of ground. I try to be specific. The stuff I thought was important. Get actual numbers, actual rates, actual dollars. So again, you can look at it and kind of get the info. So that'll be available. But we'll kind of breeze through a few things. What is your credit score? It's basically an indication of how likely you are to pay back banks. So banks look at that, and then they use that to figure out how much they should charge you, how risky is your loan, and kind of how all that goes. What's a good credit score? You really want to be north of 700. If you're late in paying your bills, whether they can be small bills that are $20, $30, or major bills like your mortgage for your home, if you're late in paying your bills, they basically will go to these reporting agencies, and there's 3 of them, and they then put a black mark on your credit, and your score starts to go down. You pay your bills on time, don't keep a high balance, and that credit score goes up. Why does this matter? And we'll look at the numbers here in a bit. But the reason why it matters is if you go in and you have a good credit score, which there's rich people with good credit scores and bad credit scores, and there's poor people with good credit scores and bad credit scores. It's more a record of how good are you at paying your bills on time versus how much cash you have in the bank. But if you have a good credit score, you might go in to get a car, and that car may cost you $300 a month. Great. You have a bad credit score, same car, and that car may end up costing you $500 a month or $600 a month, or they may not let you get the car. Well, if you're paying $200, $300 a month more, well, over the course of a year, that's $4,000. Well, over the course of 3 or 4 years, we're now talking $12,000 or $15,000 of explicit extra cost that you're paying because your credit score isn't high enough. So if you get that score higher, everything gets cheaper, and there's more that you can buy. So that's why it's so important to have this as a foundation. It takes a year. It takes half a year to a year to fix it from when you start. So it's also a good first step as you're getting your plans together, moving towards getting your millions together for your family. Get your credit right. All right, Credit Karma is a great website to take a look at. Getting current on all your bills and paying your most expensive bills first. And this is hard to see, but I will run you through some of the numbers here. So we're looking at a $2,000 balance, maybe on your credit card. Let's assume 15% credit card rate, that's what that is. Your mid-monthly payment will be $55 a month. So for this outstanding credit, you just pay $55 and you're good to go. But if you do that, it'll take 14 years to pay off, and you'll have paid $5,000 for a $2,500 balance. Wow. Look at what the numbers are showing us. Often a lot different than what you might feel on the surface. Because on the surface, you're feeling, oh, it's $55. I got that. Let's send that over there. Well, you don't realize it, but you do that a few times, and all of a sudden you're talking about $20,000 or $30,000 going out of your pocket. And you can fix it, right? Instead of doing the minimum, pay as much as you can. So we're gonna stop there for a moment. I know a lot has been coming at everyone pretty fast and furious. There's a lot of stuff I want to get through. But I'd love to take some questions from the audience. Please. I always start with who's charging you the most, right? Because some of these will be 0%. If you're getting a credit product, maybe on your vehicle or student loans are really, that's good debt, right? It's going to be probably 4 or 5%. It's tax deductible, so you're really effectively paying maybe 3 or 4%. Don't pay that first. Pay that last. That's a good piece of paper you want to have outstanding. Now, if you're paying 25% for some, payday finance or that rent a center, pay that absolutely first, right? Because now that's extra interest coming out of your pocket. So you want to take out your most expensive, from an interest rate perspective, credit as you can, and that will start to give you extra money that you can then use to pay down the stuff that's cheaper. Did that? I want to make sure I answered your question. Did it? Okay. So find the most expensive stuff first and go with that. Yes, in the back.
The same as having, when you have no credit, it's the same thing as having bad credit. I mean, why can't someone get something if they have no credit?
Well, the thing about it is, and so here's how we're looking at it from the bank's perspective. And I used to work at a bank, so I know very well exactly how they think. And they don't care about anyone. All they care about is money. And really, when I say they care about money, they care a little bit about making money, and they care a whole lot about not losing money. That's all banks really care about. If I can give you money and I feel really confident it's coming back, I'm not going to charge you much. But if I don't know, because you don't have a credit history, how you are, then I'm going to be very careful. right? So you go, hey, I haven't borrowed anything before. I don't have any credit cards outstanding. And you could then go, hey, I want to take out $300,000 of a loan for this house. Who is she? Does she pay her bills on time? I don't know, because you don't have a credit history. So that's why you want to go ahead and actually create. You don't want to have, it's a balance, right? You don't want to have too much credit, because if they look at how much you're able to take out right now, i.e. if you have 3 credit cards with $75,000 of capacity in aggregate, they're going to, wait a minute, she could just go spend that real quick, and all of a sudden she looks a lot riskier. But if you have no credit lines outstanding and no history, they go, well, I don't know what she's going to do. So I have to assume the worst, because as a bank, my biggest fear is you not paying me back, right? That's how they think about it. So you want to strike that balance. And what's great is these credit reports from Credit Karma and other places, they'll explain to you what's going on with your credit score. They'll tell you why you have a 600 versus why you have 800 or 550. Not enough revolving credit. Too many revolving credit lines. So then you can see it and, again, figure out how to adjust it. And, you know, if you change this stuff, these banks basically look at these things once a month to once a quarter. You fix it and get things right, you can start to get your credit score moving the right way within 6 months to a year. Sir.
About 20 to 24%. And he never looked at the credit card interest rate. He was just looking at his minimum payment. And so I loaned him the 20-something thousand dollars to pay off all the credit cards so that he can eventually buy a home. And within a year, as you just stated, his credit score went up to I think a 7.9, something like that. And he's now, he purchased a home. This was about 3 years ago. He purchased a home because of that. But if we were sitting down and if he didn't realize that he thought he was paying down the balance, when in fact all he was doing was paying in the interest, it was going to take him another 19 years to even pay off all of that debt that he had. So if you could sort of explain what impacts your credit score, you know, either having too many cards, delay payments, like what impacts the score, because a lot of people don't realize what impacts and bring that score down.
That's a great point, and I'm glad that you brought that up. And let's take a step back here a bit. All right, let's go through this in detail. So number one, you got to know, and you don't know anyone what your credit score is. I know I've been surprised plenty of times. I take a look, and I'm like, what? I was just at 750. Now I was in the 600s. Well, that's Bank of America. We can talk about that one another time. Do not get me started. So you got to see what they're saying about you, right? And so you have the right to a free copy of your report. I believe it's every year. There are some hurdles they make you go through, and I think Credit Karma is the best way. You just go to the website, you fill out the forms, and you can get it. Also, if you're, depending on your tier, JP Morgan Chase Banking will actually give you your credit score every week updated. That's how I track mine now. So you got to see what they're saying about you, and you want the full detailed report, which will have every account balance you've ever opened, right? If you've taken out any mortgage, any credit card, any car, all of that is on there, I believe, going back for about 8 to 10 years. And if you're late on any of those payments, right, it's due Jan 1 and you decide to let it slide and pay 2 month payments February 2, that's going to show up on there, and that's going to bring down your credit score. So you're going to look at your late payments. You're going to look at if you ever defaulted and just never paid something. In some cases, people might put something on your credit score that you don't even know about, which again is why you got to get the info. There's a lot of laws about it because this stuff is so important. But again, if they look at you and they know that you aren't focused on it, that fine print can have a whole lot of negative things to mess with you. So again, you're going to take a look at that. You're going to look at how much you have outstanding as a percentage of your total capacity. Your credit card gives you $20,000, and you've got $18,000 outstanding on it. That looks very different from your credit card gives you $20,000 of spending limit, and you've got 5,000 on it. That will have a difference on your credit score. So you got to figure out how can I get that number down to a, again, relatively low level while still leaving some capacity outstanding. Is that, we all, yep.
I was always told once you pay off your card, don't close it.
Yeah,
But I
that's
never
a
know
great
why.
point. Yeah. Once you've paid off that card and you got it all done and it's down, don't, you know, you leave it open because, again, that helps out. Yeah, you're not going to want to have too much. I feel like 25, 50,000 is a good level. I don't think anyone needs $200,000 of capacity. That's more of a red flag than anything else. But you will want to leave that outstanding. And rates really matter, which is like an overwhelming part of this presentation as well. I.e., if you have a credit card with 10% and points back, use that. Don't use the shiny, fancy one that's 20%, right? Even though maybe that one looks cooler or, you know, it's the black metal one. Use the one with the lowest interest rate possible and focus on finding that card that's ideal for you, because that difference in interest rates, that differential, will add up to thousands and thousands of dollars over time.
I was just going to add further to your point. Let's say, just pick a number. If you want to have $1,000 worth of credit card availability, and you're going through a rough patch, you have 3 different cards, each at 1,000, and you've paid them all off. Now you have 3,000 of capacity. You can call the credit card companies and say, please reduce my amount to 500 on each one. So instead of just canceling them, which has a negative implication, you can reduce your balance. So then it doesn't show up, well, hey, this guy can get in trouble and charge up 3,000, because that's something that they also look at as well.
Really what I want to do today is I want to empower each of you. I want to let you know to think about this, right? And then all these resources, again, focusing, searching with Google, having the right kind of plan in place will get you the specific information right for you. And of course, I'm always here to help and to provide any insight into a specific situation you may have. But it's important, get your report, see what's on it, figure out what's wrong, and I'm sure it's something wrong, because there's always something wrong. Figure out what's wrong, what needs to be tweaked to it to move that score higher, and as you do that, it positions you for some of these next steps. Savings as a foundation. Savings, the portion of your current income not spent. Investing is the purchase of assets with the goal of increasing your net worth. This was one of my favorite slides to make because I got to do some Jay-Z quotes. Forget living rich and dying broke. I bought some artwork for $1 million. 2 years later, that art's worth $2 million. A few years later, that art's worth $8 million. I can't wait to give this art to my children. Jay-Z. Wish I could take it back to the beginning. I could have bought a place in Dumbo before it was Dumbo for like $2 million. That same building today is worth $25 million. Guess how I'm feeling? Dumbo. There's other good slides too. Reasons and ways to save, because you want to buy something in the future, get rid of future stress. And I'll tell you, look, I mean, been poor, had some cash. The biggest difference is you don't have to worry about the financial things as much. Man, that personal stuff will still hit you and blindside you. But you know that you've got resources to help out. And that's something that's really valuable. Ways to save. Pay your bills on time. Pay yourself first. We're going to talk about that. Payroll deductions, any wage increases, save those. Don't spend them. Figure out your needs and your wants. Okay? So I'm a big believer in budgets. I'm a big believer in Excel. I love math. But if you don't have Excel, Google Docs is free. Write everything down, because there's power in numbers. There's information in numbers that is often not counterintuitive to what you might think. And this is super important. You can't get yourself on the right path or make sure you're going the right way unless you're seeing actually the results of what's really happening. And I guarantee you, if you write it all down, it's probably not going to tell you exactly what you thought you were going to see. All right, so in this budget, what are you going to do? You're going to need to figure out how much am I making, right? And again, this is the key step, right? We're creating our savings, which is going to be our down payment on a home, which through appreciation is going to create meaningful value for you. So these dollars, you're going to have to get them the hard way by giving up on things and chipping in here and chipping in there. but you're doing it because you've got a vision down the road. I'm going to take this, buy that, and then turn it into that. So the savings are really the key component here. You know, I get to quote all these rappers. You know, Jada said it. You know, I had to save my lunch money just to get in the game, right? That's what you're going to have to do. So you're going to look at and say, well, how much am I making each month, whatever it is, and what are my expenses? And write them down. And look at it over a 3 or 4 month period, like an average, and create this and keep track of it so you can see what am I spending my money on and where is there room for savings, right? So let's say, hypothetically, you're looking at $2,000 a month of income. Your expenses, you go through in all detail, you know, gas, electric, rent, shoes, whatever, however it comes out, $1,600, right? In this hypothetical scenario, you've got $400 to save with. How can you get this number higher? Cheaper phone plan, better credit card with better APR rates, better things there, maybe let you save 50, 75 extra. Really focus on it. Bringing lunch from home, coffee, coupons. Man, my mother, I think, I'd say I'm probably a lot better at investing, but no one could even touch this woman at savings, right? I mean, I'm working at Merrill Lynch, probably making, who knows, 4 or 5. She was an accountant for the state of New York, as well as ran a daycare, in addition to everything else she did. You know, we Jamaicans like to have a lot of jobs. But I'm making multiples, and she's sending me money because she saved every single last penny she could. She was smart about it. And that penny, that savings, sets you up for the future, right? So you're going to look at it and say, you know what? We had 2,000. And again, all these slides are going to be available. Anyone that wants it, we'll have a sheet in the back. You can sign up, get the whole deck, go through it. And so you got that $400, maybe you find $100 extra you can get, and then all of a sudden, you're able to get to $10,000 divided by $500 of savings a month. In 1 year and 8 months, a little less than 2 years, you've got $10,000. Yeah, Johnny, that's really exciting. $10,000, okay? You can create an account separate from all the other accounts, which is what you got to do, because if it's just in your regular account, yeah, you got it, but then, you know, the new Jordans, oh, I messed up and now my wife's mad at me, I got to get her a gift. All that stuff will just keep chipping away, right? So Amex is a great account, and it's Amex, so you know you can trust it. No minimums, and you're going to get 1.5%. And you set it up automatically. It's all online. You ain't got to go nowhere. Do it on your computer. You just fill it out, complete the forms. Again, here's the website, Amex.com, and their savings, and you'll get 1.5%. And we're in a rising interest rate environment, which means that 1.5 is probably 2.5 in a year or so. That you can collect on your money, $100, $200, $300, whatever that number is per month. Step 10 is the most important. Leave the money alone and allow it to grow. Do this via direct deposit and do it first, right? So you're not going to, wait till the 29th and how much is left and then you do it. This is day one stuff. I got paid immediately. It's 200, 300, 400, 500, whatever that number is. It all comes out in a separate account. You can see it. You can get it if you need it, but you're going to do your best to not get it. And now we're going to start building, okay? More numbers. I'm going to need to read these to you, but this is some, for me, really exciting stuff. So I created some scenarios, right? We have scenario one, and I do think this is actually probably maybe the most important slide in this presentation, so I want to go through this. So we're going to take $250 per month at 2.5% interest rate, which again, you can get from a CD. Amex is 1.5. You can look around, 2.5%. We looked at a scenario where you get $500 a month, better saver, and you're going to go at that same 2.5%. We looked at, for the power savers who are really trying to get there, $750 a month with, we assume, 3% interest rate. And then lastly, this is $1,000 per month, 3%. Okay? 250, 2.5, 500, 2.5, 750, 3%, 1,000, 3%. And all this was done in simple Excel. End of year one in this one, you got $3,000, $6,000, $9,000, $12,000. Okay. Let's jump down to year three. Under scenario $250 a month, 2.5% interest, you've got $9,400. Under $500 a month at 2.5% interest rate, you've got just under $20,000. Year 3. Now, no one's getting rich next year. And so if that was what you're hoping for, this is unfortunately the wrong presentation for you. But I'll take a high chance of getting rich in 10 years and just keep going at it and keep going at it. And the great thing about money is that it's fungible. So we have our plan on what we want to do and how we want to do it. But if there's an emergency, I really was going to buy some real estate, but I've got some cushion. And again, this is $500 a month. Who here can put together, with some hard work and giving some things up, $200 a month? We all can. We all can. Not easy. I'm not going to stand here and lie to you and say it will be easy, but we can do it. We can do it. And at 3 years, we got 9,500 under 250, and we got close to 13,000 year 4, 16,000 year 5. We'll look at the 750 real quick. Again, year 3, we're at $28,000, 30,000 bucks. Year 5, $50,000. 750 a month. Not easy, but it's doable. Hey, we're going to come back to this. This is one of my favorite things to see. We're going to take a break there, and then we're going to answer some questions. How's everyone doing? Are we getting our money's worth here? It's technically free. Questions, please.
How true is that?
It is true. And so, and I do have some. It's a smaller portion of how I invest, but it makes sense there. You want to be smart and thoughtful about downside. And so a lot of what I did in this presentation was a bit more conservative, because I was like, there's mother's grandma, let's get there before we kind of start taking some risk. But look, I'd say with Bitcoin, you never know. If you were in it 2 years ago, 10,000 would now end up being worth, I think it's 300,000. I think somewhere around those numbers, which is great. But if you got in 6 months ago, 10,000 would now be 5,000. Goes up, it goes down. Goes up, it goes down. So should you have some? I think the answer is yes. Should you have a lot? I think the answer is maybe. Depends on how much time you want to spend on it. I wouldn't have that as my dumb money. I wouldn't just put it in and come check it every couple years. I could do that with a few thousand, and maybe that turns into a lot. But I'm not doing it with the lion's share of my wealth, because I might be down 50, 70%. So there's great risk and reward there. So if something you want to do, there's a lot of information available on it. You got all these Bitcoin crypto experts coming up out of nowhere, which is kind of a red flag. But look, there's money that has been made here, and there certainly could be more to be made. The way I would view it, and I think the way a lot of the smart or the professional money is, you know what, maybe 3 to 5% of your assets, right? You got 100 G's put together, you put 3 to 5 G's in that. Kind of 3 to 5% of your assets makes sense, because this is one that could hit hard and make you some dough, but it could also take a real hit. If it's 3% of your assets and you're down 50, 60%, you're annoyed, but you're fine. If it's 80% of your assets and you're down 50, 60%, you're pissed, and now all of a sudden you may need to figure out another place to live, right? Like, you just got to be careful in how you size it. So one of the, I've had a lot of great mentors over the years, investing professionals who are just amazing. And Joel Greenblatt, one of the best things he told me was, and Joel, I'll say briefly, has made 60% returns in the stock market over 10 years, billions of dollars made. A good guy, teaches at Columbia Business School. Also founder of a charter network, Success Academy, that I work with, which is helping thousands and thousands of poor black children all across New York City. He said, look, I size based on downside. If I know I can't lose a lot, then there's room for a lot of other good things to happen. So all my big bets, where I'm putting most of my money, is where I feel comfortable that I'm probably not going to take a major loss. Long-winded way of answering your question. Own some, but I wouldn't own a lot at this point. But, you know, again, each person can kind of figure that out on their own.
One in the back.
I'm taking it back to repairing your credit. I have a friend, she's thinking about doing one of those debt relief programs. Would you suggest that? I told her I don't think she should.
I mean, I don't think she should either. I guess without knowing more information, are there good debt relief programs where, you know, someone showing discipline and following the right steps is going to be able to materially improve their financial profile over time? Absolutely. But there's also a lot of dishonest and disgenuine people who are going to prey on you in this time of difficulty and end up leaving you worse off, right? Because you're vulnerable. You don't have a lot of places to go. So some people are going to set up businesses to take advantage of you. And I know those are out there. So I don't know the program. You know, look, I'd say that, and I do believe Credit Karma can help there too. And I trust they're not trying to screw you, which is a big reason why I kind of keep going back to them. So I know they're not trying to take advantage of people. But, you know, certainly you are going to need to put a program together. Now, whether that is you should just go up to someone who came with a flyer on the train, and which, you know, again, I don't want to, maybe they are doing the right thing. But there's plenty of people out there who aren't, right? So, yeah, a program is going to need to happen. But if it was me, I'd rather put that program together personally, which is going to be harder. There's no flyers for that. You're going to have to do your research and your work. How can I restructure? Can I go to the credit card company? Or is there kind of, you know, is there one person who's good at working with credit card companies? Because look, the credit card, again, all these banks just want to get paid. They want to get their money back. So if they think they're going to get zero, if let's say it's a 20K balance outstanding and they think they're going to get zero, they're mad, they're pissed, they're doing all this stuff. If you offer them 12 or 14, they're not happy, but in plenty of cases they will take it. So, you know, and the danger with some of these restructuring guys, and I don't know the details specifically, but the danger is that these guys will go to the credit card company for you. So let's say you have 20,000 outstanding. These people will go to the credit card company for you, and they'll cut the deal with them, and they do it professionally, and they go, you know what? Fine, 20 goes down to 12. And you have to pay it this way this time. And they'll come to you, and they'll go, hey, we got that 20 down to 16. And they're going to keep the 4,000 differential. So there's opportunity for people to hurt you if you're kind of just going into blanket, which is why I'm reluctant. Now, if you are doing it and you're looking at the numbers yourself, you might go, oh, thanks for getting that deal for me. You took me 20 to 12. Here's $400, right? But if they're doing it for you, right, and they're the ones who are controlling what you see in your statement from them, they can layer in all types of fees, and I can assure you they are not doing this for free. So that's how I would think about it. Okay, next section. Investing in yourself. There is no knowledge that is not power. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Now, I got to be honest with you guys. I'll keep it real. I love this quote, but I first saw it, actually, it's the loading credits for Mortal Kombat, the video game, really popular back. And I was like, whoa, that's deep, Mortal Kombat. There is no knowledge that is not power. It's only, while I was doing this presentation and researching it, I was like, wait a minute. I guess this guy, Ralph Waldo Emerson, actually said it. Learning how to manage your money doesn't cost you much. Each of these books are $9.95 or so. And it's the difference between creating wealth or standing still financially. These are my favorite books to read, and I picked the ones that, you know, one thing I've always loved about Abundant Life Church, and one thing I've always loved about our pastor, and there's a lot I love about our pastor. He married me and my wife, preside over the blessing of my son Johnny, and stood with me and talked as well during my mother's funeral. So been there through so many different things. But what I love about our pastor is that we don't talk down to the congregation here. In fact, he edifies. He's not giving you the shiny, happy, summarized version with catchphrases. He's giving you real content, giving you meat versus milk, as you're kind of talking about things. So I looked at these books and I said, these books are all readable at any level, but they have good insight that we can go and take from. Look, I can give you this presentation and talk to you and provide all that, but no one's going to help you. You are going to have to help you. You are going to have to do the work. You are going to have to do the research, and you are going to have to figure out what works for you. Now, the rewards are tangible and they're real, and this is all doable, but you're going to have to take some ownership, and you're going to have to be responsible for creating the wealth for you and for your family. So the big secret for the small investor, Joel Greenblatt, really smart investor, a passion for teaching others. Peter Lynch went up on Wall Street, and I'll take a minute to talk about Peter Lynch. Peter Lynch was a big fan of, and who's heard of Peter Lynch? I want to see if people, okay. He's been around for a while. He's kind of the 80s, 90s investment guy. He's a big fan of individual people figuring out what they know in business and then using that to find out what to invest in. All of you have iPhones. All of you have Facebook accounts. The younger quarter of us have Snapchat accounts. All of those are great investment opportunities. They are. I mean, I have most of my money is invested in Facebook equity stock because it's a really good business because we're all using it. So Peter Lynch was very focused on how to use what you know in life and in your experiences to figure out what you should buy. So one up on Wall Street, I thought that's good. And a random walk down Wall Street. Look, if I suspect once the first 100,000 starts rolling in from investing, man, you're going to get real curious about how this all works. This is a great book as far as the nuts and bolts, and really it's a practitioner, but still like a entry-level first-year college course, high school course on finance and investing, and a good way to kind of just know what's going on. And then, of course, home ownership, home buying for dummies, and whatnot. So great books. Again, please consider reading these to learn more. Home ownership, there's a lot of pros and cons. We're gonna get right to the math, because I like math. And math tells us some very interesting things. So I'm going to make this interactive, because I think we're going to kind of find some interesting stuff here. $400,000 home, right? So you did your savings, $500 a month. You put it all together, and you're starting to get there. And I'll take a couple answers, please. $400,000 home. I want you to guess two numbers. How much do you think you're going to have to put down to get in that? And how much do you think it's going to cost you each month to pay for this? Can we get some volunteers, or I'm going to just start picking? All right, we got one. All right, and how much each month? Yep, mortgage. Okay, we have any others? Yep. Yep, mortgage. Okay, well, I feel like you already know the answer. But okay, that's right. And that's our borough president. So if anyone wants to talk to him about, hey, how do I get any kind of special real estate programs after service? He's the one to pass the laws, okay? So you're going to talk to him about it. So we're going to look at, and again, you've got all these slides, and as I went through it, I was surprised. So the short answer is $14,000. So you get $400,000 a home for $14,000 down. And our borough president was right. It's really $2,000 a month or so, $2,200. Now, I'm gonna spend a bit of time on this slide because I think this is really, really important. So how do you get that down? Most homes, they want 20% down. The banks want 20% down. 20% of 400 is 80,000. So that's what they would want down conventionally. But there's a lot of programs if you have good credit. You see how we're kind of getting through all the stuff you got to do? If you got good credit, you're good standing, you can get programs where you pay 3.5% down through Fannie Mae, standard Fannie Mae loan, Fannie Mae My Community Mortgage. You pay 3.5. Well, that sounds a lot better than 20. So 14,000, right? So you're going to end up financing 385,000, and your interest rate, and these probably are a bit stale, is quote 4.3. Maybe it ends up being 5. What does that end up meaning? You're going to end up paying. This is $1,900 for mortgage, and this thing called mortgage insurance, which is, again, banks hate losing money, so they came up with this thing called mortgage insurance, and basically you pay an extra couple $100 a month, in this case $350 extra because you didn't put 20% down. So that, but basically someone else is going to guarantee that you'll pay your mortgage. Now, if you don't pay your mortgage, it doesn't help you because they'll take your home. But from the bank standpoint, someone else is taking more of the risk. So that ends up being, call this $2,200 a month. Now, interest is tax deductible on your home, which means that, and when you're doing this, it's mostly interest at first. Let me take a step back a bit and talk about mortgage. So mortgage is an agreement between you and the bank to, over a 30-year period, pay them the same payment every month, which will, at the end of 30 years, paid back in full the cost of the home and interest on that mortgage, interest on that house while you're doing it. $400,000 of house at 4% is going to end up costing you $16,000 a year of interest, or we'll call that $1,300 or so of interest each month, right? That's what it's going to end up being. And then they're going to take $1,000 on top of that, or we'll call it $500-600 on top of that, which will be paying down your principal. So that mortgage is paying down your interest and your principal, and then part of the math in it is that you pay a lot of interest the first year, but by the end of it, you're still paying that exact same monthly payment of $2,000, but it ends up being mostly principal. So in the beginning, it's all interest, and that interest is tax deductible. I feel like eyes are glazing over. But it is really important, and this is where the money comes from, right? So that is a refund check at the end of the year, if you're paying $2,000 or so a month in mortgage, that maybe ends up being $3,000 or $4,000 or so, or really netting you out to a total price of $200 or $300, maybe less per month than you're actually paying. Okay, I promise it gets more interesting from here. All right, so we had 3.5%, $14,000 down to get your $400,000 home, which it's too late for right here, but in a lot of other parts of Brooklyn still gets you a good place to be. And you're, at 4%, you're going to end up paying a little over $2,000 a month. Okay, so we're going to get our credit right, save our money to get this $14,000 deposit together, right? So that'll take a couple years, but you can start today, get this deposit together, and now we're going to be looking for our $400,000 home. Again, all these slides are available. And so if you did do a 20% conventional mortgage, that's just one down here, you end up putting $80,000 up, which is a lot more than 14. You get a better interest rate, and you don't have to pay PMI, so your monthly mortgage goes to $1,500. Net of the taxes, call that $1,200-ish, versus $2,200. So you're going to pay a lot less with this, but you got to have a whole lot more to get in the game. I've always liked, hey, I bet on myself and I take risk, something my mom wasn't always a huge fan of. But in this case, it paid out. So I always just go, if I can put less money down, then I can get a bigger home. And if that bigger home increases in value more, that gives me what we call in the financial community leverage. I'm putting down less, and I'm taking up more. So that's how I always think about things. How much am I putting down? How much am I taking up? We're also going to talk about, because you got to think about downside. We're also going to talk about downside here. How much can I lose? This is the money for my family. This is how they're going to eat. This is how we're going to take care of each other if there's an emergency. How much can I lose? Well, in this case, you can lose 14, which sucks. It's a whole lot better than losing 80 between those two. So we got that leverage piece. I wanted to stop for a second right here. And I don't know, certainly don't want to be up here all day. Do we have questions on this slide? Which again, I thought was one of the most important in what we're talking about. Yep. Yep. Great question. How do you lose money in this? So you have an obligation. And this is where your credit score is important. You promise the bank, and they're going to look at you and how often you pay your bills. You have a requirement to pay whatever the dollar amount is for this, $2,000 a month. And again, there's tax savings at the end of the year, but that's not going to help you in June when it's due. So you have an obligation to pay this. If you do not pay this, bad things start to happen. I talked about Bank of America. So I had a home, and it was my mortgage, and it was like the end of the year. I was running my own business, and so cash flow wasn't routine. It was just whenever I took money out of the business to pay myself or whatever, because that's how it is when you're an owner. You don't get a paycheck. You get everything that's left after everyone else gets their paycheck, which hopefully is a lot. Often isn't when you're starting a business. So anyway, I was like, all right, well, you know what? I'll let this slide in November, and I'll just make them whole in January, and I'll just true it all up then, which was the wrong thing to do, by the way. So Bank of America, I was like 34 days late on this payment, and then I paid two, put a black mark on my credit that said he didn't pay his mortgage on time, which took my credit score from like 760, 780 to like 620. Oh, man, was I livid. This is in one fell swoop. And that's the very least of the things they can do to you. So they'll destroy your credit, and then if you don't do it, I feel like it's hard to keep track with the laws. Again, our borough president knows. They can come get your house after, I think it's like 3 or 4 months. So you don't pay this mortgage, right, 3 or 4 months, there'll be notes, they're calling, they're pestering, your credit's hosed, and then they come for your keys. And then you can't live there anymore. And they're taking your deposit and any other money from that house. Now, the bank will go and then sell it, and technically, if there's money left over, you'll get it. But how interested do you think they are in giving you money back after they take your house and they sell it? It's not. They'll sell it for 1 penny more than they're owed, which is why buying homes that are in foreclosure will get a better deal because the bank doesn't care. They want to sell it now, and they just want to get the money back that you owe them. And that will result in you losing your mortgage. So that's the risk. How much mortgage can I afford? What am I going to do if I end up losing my job? What's going to happen to me if this doesn't work out? I'll tell you a couple things, though, especially, we're probably looking, all of us in Brooklyn, but this math works anywhere. And I'm a big fan. Like, people are mad about gentrification. They're upset. They're taking our community, and like all of a sudden, everyone's gone, and that's true, and that's the downside. But I view it like the wind or the rain or the weather. You can't fight it. You might as well profit from it. I'm not going to stand up and protest. I'm going to figure out, well, where's the gentrification going? And I guess I'll just, can't beat them, join them. Buy there, right? I'll buy there. I mean, I'll just say it. Where do we see all the families? Where are all the white people moving in? Maybe that's an opportunity. Maybe I should look at buying something there. Maybe I can buy something that's older, but you know what? The whole neighborhood's rising, and it's older, so I can buy something big. I can buy a building with 3 or 4 apartments in it. So, and then, in a couple years, they put a Whole Foods in, put an Apple store over there, and that home is now worth triple what you paid for it. And you only put 3% down. There's another slide about that in a minute. So, so you can move out, right? If all of a sudden times are hard, you don't got the dough, but you bought it 2 years ago and now things are better here, your mortgage payment is fixed. It's not going to change. But maybe you can rent it for $4,000 or $5,000, maybe. And then all of a sudden you get to keep this differential. Because it was a $2,000 mortgage, which is going to be the same for 30 years. And maybe when you got in, you could rent it for around 2,000. But again, if Brooklyn stays like what it's doing, in a couple years, that 2,000 will be to 4,000. Whose rent has gone up in the last couple of years? I mean, I feel like everyone's rent has gone. I mean, mine has. Well, what if we're on the other side of it? And instead of it taking money out of your pocket, it's putting more money in, right? So if you do get into a hard time, if you're smart about it, you should have some options. Hey, I'll move out, I'll downsize, I'll go stay with my family for a bit, and I'll rent this out. And at least that lets me kind of make my monthly payment and stay in the game. This is an asset. But I do want to make it clear, if you do not pay your mortgage because it's too big for you, or because you were expecting some things to work out and they didn't, or you lose your job or something happens, then you have to expect that within, I'd say expect a couple months, but maybe it takes a bit longer, they're going to take your home from you. You'll have to leave, and everything you put into it will go away. So that's the risk. Yes. Yep. Yep.
Who wins and who loses? In this
It's all going to come back to math, which is what I really hope everyone takes away from here. Because let's say that money purchase ends up putting in her hands, I don't know, $700,000. I don't know the home, but maybe she's winning. But let's say that same money mortgage puts in her hands $340,000. Again, I don't know the home, but then she might be losing. Yeah, so I mean, so the details, the details matter. The details really matter.
Details, because I suspect about it.
Sure, the details matter. Look, there's no free lunch out there. If they're coming up and they're offering you cash a certain amount for it, maybe it makes sense, and maybe it's all the same for you. But look, Brooklyn's pretty hot. So if you put it and list it yourself with a broker who's in charge of selling it, I'm gonna guess inventory here is turning over in like 4-ish, 5-ish months. So you're not getting it today, but that's not that far away. And then you have an auction, which means multiple people are all bidding on it, and that's gonna basically guarantee you get the best price. Could you get a better price all cash? Almost certainly not, but you're gonna get it now. But 3 or 4 months, you're gonna get a market price. And right now in Brooklyn, there's greater demand than there is supply in aggregate. So you're probably going to you'll feel better about your price if you have a process. You see the 20 people. I sold my home, and Connie knows, which was on Atlantic and Flatbush, right across from Barclay. And I got it before they built Barclay, which is also why I love Jay-Z so much. And like, I was selling this thing, but was it Jan of 15? Jan 16. And there's no inventory then. There is no inventory, and it was like a 2-bedroom with a patio. There's no inventory then. So we listed this, and I went to Cochrane or whatever, and first open house, I think we had 25 people sign in. This is one apartment, right? Like, this is the first day. Ravenous demand, and because there's no inventory. I think I looked, there was only 4 2-bedrooms in like all of Borum Hill that were available. So again, I don't know the specific area. I don't know whatever's going on. But with that much demand, I'll wait 2 months, and I'll go to a full auction, and I'll get the best price for myself. So here's another really exciting slide. Home ownership. We've talked a lot about this. What does this look like? So you got $400,000 home. You did $40,000 down. I guess I should have made it the 14. You're financing $360,000. Your total purchase price is $400,000. Your monthly mortgage payment is $2,000. 5 years later, and time flies. I mean, I think about it all the time. I'll hear a lot of hip hop. I'll hear a song on the radio, like maybe a 50 song, and I'm like, man, that came out in 2011. It doesn't feel that long ago. It doesn't. Like it just doesn't. Time flies, and it's only more as you're getting older. So 5 years goes by, which is like a heartbeat. It will look like looking back. And maybe that home that you paid $400,000 for, if you were smart, got on the edge of gentrification, things are happening, things are popping, is now worth $700,000. Well, that looks great on this slideshow. What does that mean to you? So the $40,000 down payment, which again we got because we were saving $500 a month, $7 a month, right? So starting today with what we can do today, putting that together, getting that down payment, 5 years later, your mortgage probably is down to $320 because you're paying it off a little bit, and that home equity is worth $380,000. Right? You know, we're probably 8 years in between the savings to this, but we're now in the $500,000 range. That's cash money. That's real money, and that's your money. Look, you work in New York City, in America, the government is in your pocket. Sorry, Borough President, but it's true. You can't, you make $10 and the government wants $3.80. It's crazy. It's life, but it's crazy. Not here. $500,000 is tax-free of home appreciation for married couples, $250 for single. So all that money is yours, free and clear, legally. You can put on your tax return, and they're still not taking it because they want people to buy homes. Wow, these numbers are starting to add up, right? Couple $100 a month, save. And it's somewhat, I'm reiterating things because I really hope that you guys kind of grab it and take it from here. You're saving a couple $100 a month, you're putting it together, you're getting your $15K, you're getting your home, you're finding the right spot where there's some gentrification. A few years later, you've got something that rounds to $500,000 of cash in your bank account. It's a pretty good use of a Sunday morning lecture, I think. Oops, did I skip some? There's more, I think. Oh, I'm sorry. Here we go. We talked about advantages, all of it. We talked about the down payment. Here's a checklist. Again, the slideshow is available for everyone, right? And so get it, share it with your friends. Here we go. Look for gentrification. Gives you price appreciation. How do you feel about the neighborhood? You have enough rooms. That's the other thing about home ownership, actually, is it's yours for you and for your family. So there's some real advantages to that. Enough storage space, good schooling. Really, it's all about gentrification, in my personal opinion. And what kind of mortgage is right for you. We taught everything's been 30-year. There's also interest-only mortgages that give you a lower payment. So lower payment's good. The problem is they all basically become 30-year mortgages after 5 or 7 years. And interest rates are low now. They're going higher. And so actually, I'll talk about that just for a minute. Interest rates are going higher. Higher interest rates in general mean lower property values. And lower interest rates in general mean higher property values. Because when interest rates are higher, it costs you more. That car you're going out and you're leasing with a 4% interest rate today may cost you $500. With a 7% interest rate, may end up costing you $700 or $650. I hadn't done the actual math on that, but it's real, right? So that's something also to be aware of. You kind of think about what are the risks. The risks are maybe your home doesn't go up, and this presentation isn't going to help you. Come back with, Andrew, I saw this slide. The numbers didn't work out like this. Sorry. There is some risk to this, and I want to make sure that's understood. So you have interest only where you pay a lower amount, but you're going to end up going to a conventional mortgage later, which may give you a higher interest rate, which again is a really big part of how much your mortgage costs, but it gives you a lower payment today. So some flexibility, there's some risk there. So you have conventional, you have interest only. Those are really the only two types of mortgages that make sense. Potential difficulties, discrimination is illegal, but I'll tell you what, man, I'll talk about the checks that I cashed from when I sold my home. I walked in the bank, and you would have thought I was committing a crime. I was like, this is my money, and I'd like to deposit it in your bank. Why are you asking me all these questions? I didn't steal the money. I'm not committing a crime. I'm not taking anything from you. I'm giving you my money, and you're telling me I need to explain myself. Anyway, that's a whole nother sermon. So discrimination, it's real. It's out there. It's illegal. It shows up in a lot of different ways, right, as far as, so you just want to be aware of it, but know that it's against the law, and you can go towards really the government to get help and to correct people for doing it. And where could it show up? It could show up in people not treating you right as you're looking at homes. It could show up in them not giving your bid. You know, you're going to put a bid in on a home, right? And they might say, well, I don't think he really got the money. Yes, I do. Right? So those are some things you can see there. You want to be aware of that. Oops, that's my fault again. Oh, there we go. We have one more section. I don't know if I'm going over. I don't know if you guys are bored, if this is helping. Are you guys learning something? Is this helpful? Is this good? Because I can just stop talking if everyone's good. Do we have any questions on home ownership? The last section will be just investing in the stock market and some of what I've taken away from doing that. Once you've got that $500,000 in the bank from this, what else can we do with it? Do we have any other questions or any comments from the audience? Yep.
Is worth 1.2 now. My co-op I bought for 13,000 is now worth 350,000. I don't pay my mortgage because my tenants pay my mortgage. There is no bad property. That's the hardest thing for me to get families to understand, that nowhere in Brooklyn is a bad place to buy a home. And the same amount you're paying for rent, as you just showed, which is so important. People are paying $2,500 for rent. That's a mortgage. You know, now is the time to buy. Don't complain about Prospect Heights has changed. You didn't buy it when you had a chance. Used to be my girl. That's my song I like. When she was your girl, you didn't appreciate her. Now somebody else got her on the arm. Plain and simple. Bed-Stuy was our girl. Crown Heights was our girl. Howland was our girl. No one took these communities from us. We didn't want her. Now she's on somebody else's arm. There's some available girls out there in Brownsville and East New York. Go out there and start dating and courting.
You heard it here first, people. That's right. That is absolutely right. And that's exactly what, I did and what I would encourage all of you to do. Get on the train. So it's really all about where the trains are located, too, because everyone works in Manhattan. And, that layout can do different things, right? You might be one block, and it'll take you 40 minutes to get downtown. You go 5 blocks the other way, and because of an express stop, it's 22 minutes, right? So you want to be smart about that. If you can find, and Franklin Avenue on the 2 train is a perfect example, right? Express, you get on there, you get to the city quick. Man, those real estate values are going crazy right over there. So you want to be thoughtful about that. Spend time exploring, understand neighborhoods. There's also government programs beyond what I talked about. My mother, God rest her soul, had an amazing program where the government, she bought it had a storefront and 3 apartment buildings in it over on Throop and Nostrand, I believe. And she ran a daycare in the basement. And it ran out, but the government in the state of New York said, we're going to pay for half this home for you. You just have to commit to being there for 10 years. So even better. So there's all these different programs out there. Acorn is a good one. You're going to have to hit up the borough president. He probably knows them a lot better than I do. But there's organizations set up to help you get your home and really lower the amount that you have to pay so you can start getting this benefit for you and for your family. So the onus is on you to do that research and that homework to figure this stuff out. We're going to talk about investing here a little bit. And so, earlier we touched on kind of Bitcoin. And I am going to try to wrap this up in 15 minutes. So you've got risk, which you've got all types of fancy, weird terms for what that means. Here's what I think it means. The chance of value and investment will decrease. No one's really worried that it's risky and it's going to go up. You're worried it's risky, it's going to go down. Return, how much you're going to make on an investment, and liquidity. Liquidity is so important. It's funny, I'm older and I've got all these degrees for these fancy schools and whatever. And it all comes back to cream. Cash rules everything around me, right? It's the truest thing I've ever heard, and I see it. Cash rules everything around me. Get the money. Dollar bill, y'all. It's true. It's true. Man, if that house has got $500,000 equity in it, and you just need $10,000 today, you can't get it today. Maybe you can go get a loan or something and get into that equity and get it in like a month or two. But if you need it today, you ain't got it, right? Versus if it's in your checking account, you can get it today. That's liquidity. right? You can be what's called house rich, which isn't really a problem, but it's also a real thing. All your money's in your home, and now you really need it for something that's there. So that's what liquidity means. How quickly can I get to my money if I need my money to do something, right? Savings, low risk, usually low return, high liquidity, because cash rules, right? If something costs 10,000, you ain't got the cash, but that person does, cash rules. They're going to get it, right? And it may be something that you want. Investments, higher risk, higher return, and general lower liquidity. Oh, I didn't even know I put some features in here. Okay. Risk versus return. Stocks have an higher rate of return. Look, I'll say this part up front. It does not need to be complicated to make money. Real money in the stock market. Real money being 25% kind of returns. And in average, the stock market returns, it's 8.5%, but it's volatile. And play the last few years, I mean, look, we all, heaven forbid I say anything positive about Trump while I'm on this stage. Look, the stock market's been on a tear. And so, hate him as much as you want. I hope you got your money tied into that success, because as he's focused on making all the billionaires richer, man, wouldn't it be great if we got to go along too, right? And it, again, can be simple, which means however you have your account, you get a simple ETF SPY, 3 letters. S&P 500, I mean, we're talking about once you got your account set up and you fill out the forms, that's 20 seconds effort. SPY, enter, buy, click, we're done. We're good. You're now going to get the S&P return on whatever money you put in there, and last year that return was 24%. You ain't got to do, I mean, you should do research, and I guess I shouldn't use the word ain't, but so you should do research to see, but S&P 500, SPY, really low fees. I want to say 10 basis points, which is 1/10 of 1% or less, and you're getting the market return. So Trump is cutting all these deals to benefit the corporations. You're now getting some of that too, right? But if you're like me and you want more than the market return, and you think you can do it, you can start picking some individual stocks. Higher rate of return in general means greater risk, okay? Having a bunch, so it really goes to about 10. If you have one stock, because anything can happen at any point in time, if all your money's in one stock, you're going to do well if that stock goes up, and you're going to do poorly if it goes down. Having 8 or 10 is a good diversification, because that means that, you know, assuming they're all equal in size, 12-ish kind of percent of your total portfolio, if one of them does really bad, it gets muted and mitigated. So really people say kind of 8. S&P 500 has 500 companies in it. So that's diversified for you. So really, if you take one thing away from this investment portion, you can just own S&P real quick, real easy, real cheap, real transparent, real liquidity, and you can just buy that, and you'll get the market return, and that should be plenty. And this kind of just looks at what are the different assets and kind of the risk. Am I doing this right? So penny stocks on top, all the way down to treasuries from the government and CDs at the bottom. Penny stocks, you never know what's going to happen, but maybe if they hit, you can kind of do well. Bottom one, really safe. You'll have your money. You'll get 2%. I will say, though, because I've kind of been all up and down this chart, I will say, though, that I personally think in today's market, stick with the bigger ones, and I'll touch on this more. You don't need to go to these penny stocks. It's not worth your time, your effort. You'll lose more than you win, and it's annoying when you can just, I mean, Amazon is up 35% this year. We're only at month, I mean, we aren't even in the 3rd month. They're up 35% this year. Who here has heard of Amazon? That's easy, AMZN. So you don't need to go get the penny stock. Hey, I got a tip. This drug is going to go to that. They're going to do this deal. And, you know, that's what Wall Street people love. And I used to do that stuff too. And that was kind of like, dude, why don't I just buy Amazon, right? Or why don't I just buy Facebook? I don't need to make this hard. There's no reward for degree of difficulty. It's just cash rules, right? How do I get my cash up to where I want it to be? Einstein quote, compound interest. Interest, and I think this is also a really strong point, interest which is calculated not on the initial principal, but the accumulated interest of prior periods. It is the greatest mathematical discovery of all time. And that's true. As true as his day, it's truer now. Another question. Would you rather have $1 million today or a penny that doubles every day for 30 days? So I guess we all kind of know it, but the numbers are, it's shocking. 1 penny, and instead of a day, let's call it a year. And instead of a penny, let's call it $10. 30 years, it's a lifetime. But that $10, if you're doubling it at the end of it, ends up being, so 1 penny is 536 million at the end. That's right. And I want to say, I guess that takes us to 50 million. Look, I haven't worked through the math on that one prior to coming here. But, like, it's just staggering, right? Because you go 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, 8,000, 16,000, 32,000, 65, 130, 260, 520, 1 million. Man, that 1, 2 didn't sound that exciting, but that 500,000 million sounded pretty good. But it starts with the 1, 2. That's where it begins. That's ultimately the heart of it. And if instead of taking that 1, you went and bought the aforementioned Jordans, you're giving up on a whole lot over time. More stuff on compound interest. Stock market returns. Look, the market goes up and down. Hindsight often shows, and again, to me, I go, why aren't there more black people profiting from these investment opportunities? Millions and billions are being made every year. What about our community? Where's our piece of this pie? How can we get millions of dollars created by investing our capital? That's really what I want us to leave here with. Market goes up because it sounds boring, and it is boring, but the money isn't, right? The market goes up, market goes down, know that going in, and the best investments are often made when everyone else is selling. It's counterintuitive. The market's made of greed and fear. When it goes up, everyone wants it. When it goes down, everyone assumes the worst and everyone gets scared. So that means that prices are better when people are afraid, and that means that if you're buying then in general, you're better positioned to benefit. I wanted to talk a little bit, and you can't really see it here, unfortunately, about make it real. A company, LinkedIn. We all know LinkedIn? Yeah, we all know LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a stock. Most of the companies and brands you know are publicly traded. LinkedIn is a stock. It was very popular, high flyer, $40, $50 billion market cap. And first, we're kind of missing it here. I got the stock chart, and it's like this, like this, like this. They missed earnings in January. January is often a very rocky month for companies, and stocks go down a lot. They missed earnings in January, so they reported January 29th. The stock was $200. The next day, it opened at $100. So what does that mean? That mean if you had $40,000 in LinkedIn day one, you got $20,000 day two, right? So hopefully that's not you, but maybe there's an opportunity there we can benefit. LinkedIn, we all know it because it's popular and it's useful and it's a utility. Microsoft bought LinkedIn for $200 a share in June of that year. Okay, so if I had taken $10,000 or if I had taken $1,000 and I looked at this LinkedIn and I've been like, well, LinkedIn's a pretty good company. The stock just fell 50%. That may have been an overreaction. Let's put $1,000 in. And then 5 months later, that $1,000 has doubled in value. It's doubled in value. And look, this is you and me talking. We're not all these fancy whatever, Goldman Sachs, this, that, the other. Just keep your eyes open. Stock fell 50%. It's a good business. Maybe that's something worth investing some capital in. Plenty of stocks drop a lot, keep declining, however. we're in a momentum-driven market, which means things are going up, keep going up. I think, and I haven't verified this, but I saw it somewhere. I think Netflix is up 70% this year, which is like, it's madness, right? Netflix has, I think, gone up 9x in the last 3 years. It's crazy. So things that are working keep working, things that don't tend to not. So plenty of stocks drop a lot in decline in value. How do you know which ones to buy? Stocks aren't just like flashing lights and numbers. Stocks are partial ownership of businesses. There's 1 million shares outstanding, you own 1/millionth of that company, right? When you find a good business but the stock drops a lot, one to take a look at. Said another way, and I'm a football guy, and I hate the Pats, but the Pats win. If the Patriots lose, right? And so normally when bookies are making odds on it, and I'm like, great service, you're talking about gambling and rap lyrics. If bookies are making odds on the Patriots, and you know you're going to end up, call it 1-1, or maybe it's less favorable than that. If the Patriots lose, that same bookie may go, you know what? I'll pay you 2-1. The Patriots are done. Brady's wrapped up. You go, hey, I'll take that bet all day. They're a good company. It's a good business. And now, because of this change in price, because of a piece of bad information, I can get better odds and make more by betting on this. Now, that same bookie comes to you after the Jets lose, and I technically was a Jets fan. I was a Jets fan, technically no longer for obvious reasons. Or the Browns lose, and that bookie's offering you 4-1, I would say don't take that bet, right? So that's kind of how it works here. Some random company you never heard of that's like crabbing the stocks down a lot, and you're like, do we buy this? No. Visa, which is one of the most profitable businesses in the world, that stock drops? Yes, okay? Back the winners, okay? Invest in companies that are growing, which have a good defense against competition. All the fancy business school stuff I learned, throw it all out the window. Competition is kryptonite for businesses. That's really the most important thing. If a business is set up where it's really hard to compete, then that business will be incredibly profitable. And as a partial owner of that business, by owning stock, that profit accrues to you. And that stock is likely to go up in value over time, making you more money because you own that stock. Now, if there's a lot of competition, however, then no one makes any money, right? How many corner stores do we see walking around the area, or restaurants? They don't make any money. Those are not very profitable businesses because everyone does it. That means that they can't charge more than they are now to try to get more profit. How many credit card companies are there in the world? Just like Visa, MasterCard, and Amex. No one counts Discover. And there's one in Asia, I think, called no one counts Discover. And there's one called UnionPay, which is in Asia. There's only 4 in the world. All the trillions of credit card money that goes out has to flow through their hands. Those are the most profitable businesses in the world. Visa makes 65%. I'll tell you actually one more profitable business than Visa, if you can believe it, is Lego. Lego makes 75%. So that means when you're paying $50 for that set of whatever it is, Lego day one is taking $35, $40 home of your money, and they're keeping that as profit because there is no competition with Lego. I mean, there's second-tier brands, but it's not the same. So you want to look for businesses that are able to keep away competition, and those are the ones that you want to stay with. If you can imagine how competition can destroy a business very easily, then that probably shouldn't be for you, no matter what that stock chart looks like it's doing. Oops, keep doing that. We're almost done. And then more stock charts. A lot of people want to buy and trade stocks every day. I'm a hop in, I'm a hop out, I'm a timing this and do all that. I'll tell you a secret. You know, some of the best investors, those billionaires I talked about, they hold on the same stocks for a decade. Let's look at Facebook. 2013, and I'll just draw it. Now the stock's 185. 2013, I want to say this thing was $20. So if you bought it and you just kept it, well, one, you don't pay taxes. You pay taxes when you sell and you have a profit, and the taxes, we know, can be high. So if you just bought it and you kept it, well, $50,000 in 13, which again wasn't that long ago, is now $300,000. Priceline, which I love, so all the online booking and travel, returns 40% a year. 50K in 2010 is now worth $250,000. Now, most stocks aren't like these. Most stocks go up, go down, and they're flat, and like this, that, and the other. But when you find a good business that's growing quickly, that's able to keep competition away, those are the ones that you want to be in. And then you can just hold on to them. And you don't have to worry about selling them. You just keep them, and they'll keep going up and up every year. And then lastly, because, it's all well and good, what do I like right now? Andrew, what is in your portfolio? Where are you putting your money today? And so I'll tell you, the lion's share is in Facebook, because I think Facebook now has 1.5 billion users. If you're going to start another social networking site, how many are you beginning with? You're beginning with one. So they're going to come up to you like, hey, join my social networking site. How many people you got? I have one. You'll be number 2. And you say that to all 1.5 billion people using Facebook, and they go, no, I'll just stick with Facebook. So what that creates is what in finance terms is a moat. It means competition finds it really hard to get in, right? Snap is the only one to really create another network, and so it's hard to do. And what that means to me is that, look, Facebook is charging at this point $2 a month for every person that's on their network. So you're 1.5 billion. You're making $3 billion a month selling ads that show up on your Facebook stream, right? So all the different advertisers. And you know what? 2 years ago, they were charging $1 a month. And you know what? They're going to go to 3 next year. And I'm pretty sure 4 the year after that. And if the advertisers don't like it, we'll go to the other social networks, such as crickets. You don't want to go on Facebook, go, there are no others. Snap has 180 million users, and no one else is doing anymore. So what is Facebook going to do? Oh, I don't know. They're going to raise prices. And if you don't like it, you got nowhere else to go. Well, that sounds like a good business. I'm putting my money there. So Facebook, PayPal, which online payments, again, it's a network. I like network businesses because I know competition's always coming. If you come up with like the best dish ever and you put up a stand to sell it, man, you got a week and a half until someone is copying your recipe a block and a half away. Like, it's a guarantee. But not when it comes to your payment networks, right? So, because we all, we trust our money. We want our money to be safe. So if we put our money on PayPal and we know it's safe, I'm not trying to sign up to 50 other different ones. I'll just use this PayPal one. Again, limited competition. Online payments growing rapidly, 30, 40% a year, more online every year, and the lion's share of that goes to PayPal. Because we're all doing more and more things online, not here, all over the world. And so that's not going to change. Adobe, I like a lot. They do Photoshop and make all these pictures. Again, no competition. There's only Photoshop. There really aren't other choices. And then Salesforce, which people use to grow their business. Look, you got to do your own homework. Because if you don't, you buy it and it sucks, you're going to be pissed and you'll sell it. And then when it doubles, when Microsoft buys it, you'll be annoyed. You have to own it for yourself and for your own reasons. I just threw out what I found and what works for me. I have a background in technology. That's what I studied at West Point. I know computers well. I understand it. We're in obviously a tech renaissance, so I put my money there. Each of us are different. Figure out what you're good at. Figure out what you understand. Figure out what's happening around you, and then that creates the opportunity. Keep in mind, but bigger in general is better. And I think we might be done. Keep it simple. SPY. If you don't want to do single stocks, which, by the way, I would say for most people here, start with an ETF group, which can just be S&P. Throw some triple Qs, which is NASDAQ in there. Start buying a couple single stocks with a little bit, learn a little bit, see what works for you, see where you make money, see where you don't, kind of go from there, and that's it. So it's a wrap. We've done a lot. It's very kind of you to listen to what I know must have been pretty dry. But, look, I'll summarize with tithe. You can start doing that today, actually now. Tithe. You can actually do that right now. Get your credit right. Get your score as high as you can. All of us can have scores in the 760s plus. Do that. Save. Start now. Start with 200 if you have to, 500 if you can. Separate account. You got the instructions. Use that savings. You heard it from the borough president right here. There is no bad place in Brooklyn. Get yourself a home with one of these programs. 15,000 down will do it, right? Which is 3 or 4 years of savings. Pick the right spot. You create some value, some wealth for your family over a few years. And then if you look to diversify, SPY is a good one. I like Facebook. Find some companies that work for you. Educate yourself. Take control and be able to take care of your family. Thank you and God bless.
Let's thank him one more time. Andrew Glaze for that powerful information, and we really appreciate that. Did you all learn? Was anybody taking notes? Did you learn some powerful information? Right? Anybody ready to be wealthy? Anybody claiming millionaire status? All right, tell your neighbor, if you get there before me, just don't forget about me, all right? We're all trying to get there. And I know somebody may wonder, why this? Why during the Sunday morning service? And one simple reason, because it's important. And if we said, let's meet in the back room after service, after the benediction, y'all say, no, I'm going to go home. And it shows that, I mean, money is connected to our spiritual life. Does it say in the Bible that money is the root of all evil? It doesn't. What does it say? The love of money is the root of all evil. And as spiritual people, we can recognize money as a need without being overly materialistic where we put all of our faith in physical things. But money is connected to our spiritual life. In the Bible, they talk about money, sex, and power. Those are the dominant themes. And so it talks about money because money is so key. I just want to read the scripture really quickly before we have the offering and a prayer. It says in Philippians 4:19, and my God will meet all your needs according to his glorious riches in Christ Jesus. So as spiritual people, it starts with that. We've got to focus on what we need, because so many of us get ourselves in financial difficulty because we're not just focusing on what we need, but what we want. And we keep spending money on what we want, and what you want is constantly changing. You can't satisfy wants. You never say I have enough physical things if you're chasing materialism. But if you're spiritual, you can say, I know the Lord's going to bless me according to my needs. And once you do that spiritually, you can start spending less money, because spending money is not tied to who you are. Does somebody hear that? I had an uncle, my Uncle Lewis, may he rest in peace, my father's brother. He worked a city job, never did a day's overtime, never worked a second job, and died a millionaire. And because he saved his money and he invested in stocks. Uncle Lewis, let me say this though, he was a little bit extreme. My brothers and I, we went fishing with him once. He pulled up at a bodega and he said, I'm running to the store. Do you all want a soda? We said, yeah, we want a soda. Me and my brothers. There were 3 of us in the back of the car. Uncle Lewis said, what kind of soda do you want? We were like, coconut soda. He said, okay. He comes out with 1 soda, opens the can and passes us in the back of the car and said, I asked you if you wanted a soda. So we had to split the soda. Uncle Lewis lived on Bergen Street, and he would go hang out with the guys on the corner drinking their beer, and he's hanging out with these guys. But they didn't realize what Uncle Lewis did. He would buy a big bottle of beer, and he'd buy a can. And he'd take the big bottle upstairs in the refrigerator, and when the can was done, he wouldn't go buy another can. He went back to his apartment and poured from the big bottle into the can because he wanted to save money. And you say that's extreme, but let me tell you this. I bet you if you really look, you're wasting a bunch of money. All of us, you're spending money. And so can we do that? As spiritual people, we got to say, do I really need this? Do I really have to have, or can I take that money I'm throwing away and can I put that in a savings account? Even before you get to the stocks, you got to invest in stocks, but you can't invest in stocks if you keep throwing away money after money after money. So that's what we want. But we want, as spiritual people, we also have to realize the last point is, you can't help poor people when you're poor yourself. You can help folk, but if you really want to, what I want us to think in terms of, I want to think in terms of, God's kingdom can have wealth. Can God's kingdom have wealth? We can't let people who don't care about poor people have all of the wealth. We got to claim and say, I can be spiritual, but I can also say there's nothing wrong with being spiritual and wealthy. Because wealth and materialism are two different things. You can be wealth and you don't have to be overly materialistic. Is anybody willing to claim wealth right now? Tell your neighbor, wealth is in my future. Tell your neighbor, I see the house. Borough president said, there's no bad house in Brooklyn. Guess what? From the time you buy the car, you drive the car off the lot, the value went down. You bought the car for $20,000, you drive off the lot, you can't sell it for $20,000. But the value of the house is going to continue to increase. I don't know, Borough President. I don't know if we have people in here that are claiming wealth right now. If you're claiming wealth, why don't you stand on your feet and say, I'm claiming wealth right now. Let's do it Jabez prayer. Jabez prayer was, Lord, just enlarge my territory. Anybody ready for their territory to be enlarged? Anybody ready saying, Lord, I want you to bless me so I can bless somebody else? Your teachers, your social workers, you can be a teacher, a social worker, and you can still invest in stocks, and you can be the richest social worker on your job. You can be like Uncle Lewis and say, listen, I'm bringing my tuna fish sandwich for lunch. Y'all can go out to eat it Fridays next to the job of I'm going to bring my tuna fish sandwich. I'm going to bring my bottled water. Matter of fact, I'm going to just keep one bottle. I'm going to keep filling it up at home, right? You got to find a way. You have to find a way to save money. So as we pray right now, as you come to the altar, yes, there's a sheet in the back. Some people already signed it. If you want to get this presentation, just make sure you write your name down on a piece of paper. He said it's available for anybody. Look at this. He's all right. It's all right. That's life. That's energy. We'll send you the presentation, but you just have to promise. He said you're going to get it. There's no charge. But you can't sell it to anybody, all right? You can share it with people if you want to. As we pray, as you come to the altar this morning, if you want to come to the altar, you can stay where you are. But we want to pray. We want to rebuke poverty. We want to rebuke debt right now. And we want to say,